Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
On August 12, 2013, 25-year-old Tiffany Daniels left work early and asked her boss for a few days off so she could take care of some things. After stopping at her house briefly, she drove off in her Toyota 4Runner and was never seen again. When no one could get in touch with Tiffany, her friends and family couldn't imagine where she had gone. She hadn't told them about any plans to travel or leave her home in Pensacola, Florida. Then, 8 days after she was last seen, Tiffany's car and her belongings were found nearby. With no signs of foul play, no one could figure out what had happened to the big-hearted artist whom everyone loved. Now, over a decade later, people all around Florida and beyond are still asking the same question. Where is Tiffany Daniels? When a person goes missing, there's a special kind of pain in the not knowing. I want to tell you the stories of those who never came home. Today, I want to tell you the story of Tiffany Daniels. I'm Kona Gallagher.
And I'm Ethan Flick.
And this is And Then They Were Gone. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
Thank you for joining us once again. I'm Kona.
And I'm Ethan.
And we're the husband and wife team behind this podcast. Each week, I tell you the story of an unsolved missing persons case. Ethan doesn't know anything about the case going into the episode, and he's here to provide his reactions and questions in real time, hopefully asking some of the same ones you have at home. So this story is one that I've kind of been aware of for a while. And Tiffany actually just had a birthday. Her birthday is March 11th. There was a Facebook post from the Where's Tiffany Daniels page, just celebrating her birthday and saying that they're still looking for her. So it made me want to look into her story further and do this episode. Of course, because she's been missing for over a decade, there have been a lot of theories as to what happened. And just in looking into this to write it, my mind changed several times. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. And I still haven't really landed on what I think happened to her.
Did your mind change based on the theories that are out there or based on what you found while you were researching it?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. Obviously, I talk about all that. So we'll get into it, but I'll be interested to get your perspective as well.
Yeah, I mean, I
see if you agree with me or not.
Just from the initial intro, I was curious what happened to her car. So it's interesting that she said that they found the car.
Yeah,
pretty quickly, right?
Right, but there are a lot of weird circumstances around that.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
of course. Right.
Yeah, but
anytime you find a car and you don't find the person.
Yeah, but I was gonna say okay, that was my first thought was what happened to her car.
Mm-hmm.
If they didn't find her car, then I'm sure the theories would have been, she left and started a new life. That whole thing, which I'm sure there's also that theory out there too.
Yeah, but I mean, definitely early on, especially before they found the car, right? But no, I don't think that's a prevalent one nowadays.
Okay.
But, we're getting ahead of ourselves, of course. So before we actually get into all of this, we've had a few new members join us over on Patreon, so we want to give a shout out to YS, Renita, and Lauren J. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you all so much.
Remember, if you join us there on any level, starting at just $2 a month, you can get these episodes ad-free and also get a free copy of the ebook that I wrote. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's get into the story and, of course, many theories of Tiffany Daniels. Tiffany Heaven Daniels was born on March 11th, 1988 in Dallas, Texas, to Cindy and Rodney Daniels. She was one of 3 girls. When Tiffany was little, the family moved to Pensacola, Florida, where she grew up. Tiffany grew up as an artistic child who loved people and the outdoors. She was gregarious and enjoyed biking, surfing, and camping. Her father called her a butterfly girl, saying, quote, she would be talking or doing something, and if a butterfly would come by, she would take off and follow it. As she grew up, Tiffany became an accomplished painter. In high school, she earned multiple scholarships and ended up attending both Pensacola State College and the University of West Florida. Now, despite the fact that she kind of stayed in the Pensacola, Florida area her entire life, she wasn't a homebody at all. She was very much a free spirit and, she loved to travel. She visited Italy and Israel and embraced both the culture and the people. Just to give you an idea of like how much of a free spirit she is, she has a couch surfer account, and I didn't even know this website was still around, but it's you've never heard of this?
No, I haven't. I mean, I can gather what it is based on, the name of the website, but
yeah, it's kind of like Airbnb before Airbnb,
sofas.
but for sofas. And like, I don't think you pay at all. It's just like
I would hope not.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I think it's just hey, I'm traveling here, and people just offer up their couches, basically.
That seems so dangerous.
Yeah. So I actually found the link to her couch surfer profile on Web Sleuths from their early thread on this, when it first happened back in 2013, and her profile's still up. And so I read it. And yeah, I mean, in every comment on Web Sleuths was like, oh my God.
Yeah, like I want to know the statistics on how many people get murdered from that website, like, hey, come and sleep on my couch.
Yeah. And because like that thread, for instance, right, it started very early on, like when her case was first getting news articles written about it. And so a lot of people are like, wait, does this have to do with her disappearance? Like, was she
could have
couch surfing,
Yeah.
And I will say, because I don't really talk about this in the episode, I did read that the last time she'd been on the website was either the end of June or the end of July. So she didn't have anything planned on the website. She hadn't been on it in quite some time. So it doesn't seem as though that had anything to do with anything. But,
so we hope.
Yeah.
I mean, she wasn't actively, couch surfing, but who knows if that had something to do with it.
Well, no. And so that's the thing. So while it doesn't look like that site or anything like that had anything to do with her disappearance, the fact that she's willing to just go sleep in strangers' houses and have people and have strangers sleep in her house, because she also, when she got her house in Pensacola, offered up her couch as a way to pay it forward. So, she has reviews on there of like people who stayed with her, and she'd like drive them to the beach and do all of this kind of stuff. So while that wasn't happening at the time of her disappearance, it really shows like the type of person that she was and, how she lived her life.
I'm sure it also lends to a lot of other theories too.
Yeah, sure. In August 2013, Tiffany had a job as a theater technician at her alma mater, Pensacola State College. She loved her job and lived nearby. At the time, they were getting ready to put on a production of Spamalot. In addition to making sets and other artistic endeavors at work, she was creating and selling her own art as well. Now, despite this, money was tight. Tiffany had a series of roommates in her home, but according to her parents, they often took advantage of her kindness and didn't carry their weight. So Tiffany was often left stuck with the bills. So basically, from what they were saying, she would like pay the bills at the beginning of the month and then like try to get everybody to pay their share afterwards.
Yeah.
And it didn't often work out for her. So this helps explain why, when her friend's dad was going through a divorce, her friend said that he should move in with Tiffany. That way, her dad would have somewhere to go, and Tiffany was guaranteed to have a stable roommate with an actual job who would pay his bills.
Yeah, right.
Tiffany's parents were a little weirded out by the arrangement, though.
I'm sure.
Because, yeah, the roommate, Gary Nichols, was twice Tiffany's age. I mean, more than that. He was like in his mid-50s. And they couldn't understand why somebody like that would want to move in with a woman who was just a few years out of college.
I mean, going through a divorce, probably desperation. Like he probably needed a place to go.
Yeah, and really that's what it sounds like. And, he moved in and everything seemed to work well. And he only moved in July. So, like, he really had not been living with Tiffany very long at all. He was also, from what it seems, letting loose a little bit after the divorce and like kind of partied a little bit with Tiffany and her friends. So at this time, the summer of 2013, Tiffany had a lot going on in her life. She had a job that she seemingly enjoyed. She was still doing her art, and she had a close circle of friends. However, it wasn't all sunshine and roses. Her long-term boyfriend had just gotten accepted into school in Austin, Texas, which is about 700 miles away. He wanted her to come with him to Texas, but Tiffany said she wasn't ready to give up her job and leave Pensacola. She was open to moving there at some point, but for the time being, it seemed as though they were going to do the long-distance thing. On the morning of August 11th, Tiffany and her boyfriend had a farewell breakfast. According to Gary, her roommate, Tiffany was understandably a little down afterwards, but she was excited about visiting Austin. That night, she and Gary watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail, since the next show she was doing at work was going to be Spamalot. But they both had to be to work, the next day, so after the movie, they went to bed. Gary later told police that between 3 and 5 a.m., he heard the front door open and close repeatedly. He peeked outside but didn't see anyone. He assumed that Tiffany was just going to work early, so he went back to sleep.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Repeatedly.
And also, very much out of a character, because Tiffany, from what everybody says, was not a morning person and not the type who would leave for work between 3 and 5 a.m.
What would she need to be doing that early in the morning if she's part of creating the set, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's not, unless they had a show starting that day and they needed more artwork done for the set. I can't see there ever being a need to be there that early in the morning.
No, and I don't think there was, or there would have been. But I think from, Gary's perspective, he was, I'm sure, half asleep. Didn't really know what he was saying, and just right. I don't know, I guess she's leaving, and went back to bed.
Yeah.
And then also, he'd only been living with her for 3 weeks. So he didn't really know her routine that well.
Yeah.
And so, for all, he's like, I don't know, I guess she went to work. When you don't really know, it kind of makes sense that you would just assume something like that. However, it doesn't appear that Tiffany went to work early at all. So we don't know what that was all about. We don't know if she did actually leave between 3 and 5 a.m., if somebody came in between 3 and 5 a.m., or what was going on. But it seems as though Tiffany showed up for work whenever she was scheduled to show up for work.
Could it have been her boyfriend? Because you said they had a farewell breakfast. Could it have been her boyfriend, leaving to get on the plane to go to Austin?
No, I think he left earlier. I think he had already been gone. I think that's why they had breakfast.
Okay.
As opposed to dinner or whatever, because I think he was getting on the plane that day.
Okay.
So Tiffany was at work, though, on August 12th, as normal. And while she was there, she was trying to sell some of her paintings. So she usually worked till about 5, but asked her supervisor if she could take off a little bit early. She also said that she needed the next few days off because she had some things she needed to take care of. Her boss said that would be fine, and Tiffany left at 4:43 p.m. Tiffany stopped back by her house, but Gary was on a long phone call with his girlfriend. He had a girlfriend who lived out of state, I guess. So they didn't talk. So he doesn't know if she came home to change, or if she picked something up or dropped something off, or, what she was doing at home. And apparently he was on the phone with his girlfriend for over an hour. So it was a long phone call.
And she was home that entire time?
No, I don't think she was. I think she was home for just a portion of that time, but he never got the chance to talk to her or really see what she was doing. When she didn't come home that evening, though, Gary tried calling her cell phone around 10 p.m. Tiffany didn't answer, but according to her parents, it sounds as though Tiffany had a pay-as-you-go phone, and she had actually been out of minutes for the past couple days.
Okay. And forgive, I don't know a whole lot about cell phone forensics. Is there a way, and do we know, has that been backed up by police?
I believe so, because when I read that her parents said that, it was several years later.
Oh, no, I don't mean the pay-as-you-go. I mean that, was it confirmed that Gary did actually make that phone call?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. That had been confirmed by police because they checked the phone records of the house. They checked Gary's phone records.
Thank you. Because I'm assuming that Gary would be a number one suspect.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And so they did talk to him very early on and checked out everything about him.
Okay. Again, sorry, getting ahead of myself. Just when you mentioned the phone call, I just was instantly, is this just him saying this?
no.
To make it seem like he was a concerned roommate or...
Nope, the police are the ones who actually came out and said that he was on the phone when she came home.
Gotcha.
So he, like I said, he had tried calling her at 10 p.m. on the 12th. She didn't answer. That could be because she was out of minutes or you know. Who knows, right? Yeah. But again, like, they're roommates. He's not her dad. So he just went about his evening, went to bed. But when she still wasn't home in the morning, he did try to call her again. Still didn't get a hold of her. So he went to work, you know, did his normal life. But when he returned that evening, the power was shut off in the house. So then he was like, okay, well, now I really need to get a hold of Tiffany.
Yeah.
So still couldn't get a hold of her. And he was like, okay, if she didn't pay the bill or whatever, we need to get this taken care of. So he called his daughter, Noelle, who's Tiffany's friend, and asked her to try to get in touch with Tiffany's mother to see if they could reach her so that they could get this whole power thing straightened out. So Cindy couldn't reach her daughter either. And so she and Noelle started calling around to all of Tiffany's friends to see if they had heard from her, see like what was going on. But nobody knew where she was. Now, Tiffany, like I said, was a free spirit. So although it was odd that she hadn't reached out to anyone to tell them she was going away, nobody immediately panicked. Because I guess she was the type to like spontaneously go on a camping trip or, you know, do something. Like that. Right?
Yeah.
So nobody's panicking. I think at this point, they're all just kind of annoyed that she, like, the power gets shut off in her house and hasn't called anybody.
Yeah.
And the power, let the minutes go, like, didn't buy new minutes for her phone and, you know.
Well, that is interesting, though, because, like, her pattern was to pay the bills. This is before Gary moved in. Pay the bills and then not necessarily have or get money from the roommates.
Well,
right?
I don't know how rigid of a pattern that was, though.
Okay.
I think that might have been the initial pattern, but as she wasn't getting paid, I think she fell behind, basically.
Okay.
So August 12th, the day she was last seen, was a Monday. So when nobody had heard from her by the end of the week, Cindy called the police to report her daughter missing. Ever lie down after a long day only to toss and turn, wishing for a better night's sleep? I've been there too. I'm terrible at sleeping. And after a while, it really makes you just question all of your life decisions, including the mattress that you're sleeping on. Maybe that's the culprit. March is Sleep Awareness Month, and so I want to talk to you about Avocado Green Mattress. You've probably heard of them. They're the mattresses that are made with organic and natural materials. All of Avocado's mattresses are crafted with certified organic latex, wool, and cotton, ensuring a safe, healthy sleep environment free from harmful chemicals and toxins. Their mattresses also promote better sleep through breathable, naturally temperature-regulating material. Whether you like a firm mattress, a plush mattress, they've got you covered. You can even take a mattress quiz to see which mattress and comfort option is right for you. And you can rest assured that you made the right choice because they offer sleep trials up to 1 year and generous warranties so that you have your peace of mind. Plus, they have easy financing options with Affirm, so there's just really no reason not to take control of your sleep. Avocado mattresses are better for you, better for the planet. Head to avocadomattress.com today and save up to 10% on certified organic mattresses. Dream of better. Did you know that your actual age might not be the same as your biological age? That's right, it's not just about your birth date. Your body could be older or younger than you think. Hey everyone, it's Kona, host of And Then They Were Gone, and I am coming to you today to talk about True Diagnostic. With their True Age test, you can discover your true biological age, plus get insights into things like your risk for heart disease, Alzheimer's, and even early mortality. And the best part? It's all done from the comfort of your own home. No prescriptions, no lab visits, just a simple test sent straight to your door. True Age is actually sending me a test, and I'm really excited to see what it's going to say about my health. And frankly, a little frightened. Because even though I'm afraid it's going to tell me that my biological age is higher than my normal age, it's definitely information that I can use. Because by tracking my biological age, I can actually see how the changes that I make, whether exercise, diet, or sleep, can affect my health over time. And this isn't guesswork. The true age test is based on peer-reviewed research from scientists working with Harvard, Duke, and Yale. I don't know. I like to know everything, so I think it's going to be really cool to know exactly how my lifestyle is impacting my body. I already know there's definitely room for improvement, and I think this is going to give me some actionable steps. So if you're ready to join me and find out your biological age, right now, my listeners can get 20% off their entire order at truediagnostic.com by using the code ATTWG at checkout. That's True Diagnostic, TruDiagnostic.com. Just use the code ATTWG to save 20%. Plus, if you subscribe, you'll get an additional 20% off the 50% discount. Discover your true age today. Now remember, Tiffany had asked for a few days off of work, so nobody at her job raised any alarms when she didn't show up.
Because they weren't expecting her to be there.
Exactly. So I'm assuming that, before she reported Tiffany missing, she called work, to see if she had been showing up and found this out. And again, I mentioned that, Tiffany was known to take spontaneous camping trips and things like that. So when Pensacola Police Detective Daniel Hartnett met Cindy at Tiffany's home, they found her tent inside of her bedroom. As word of Tiffany's disappearance spread, the hope was still that she had left on her own volition since her car was gone, as was her purse, phone, keys, like anything that you would normally take with you. But her belongings were pretty much still all at her house. But if she packed like a backpack full of clothes, nobody would really realize, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure.
So Detective Hartnett, in addition to finding the tent in her bedroom, looked around the whole house and saw nothing amiss. Like her bedroom looked normal. The house looked normal. There was no sign of foul play, no sign that she had planned to be gone for an extended period of time, nothing out of the ordinary. There was no indication that something bad had happened to Tiffany. She was just gone. But her family and friends are still concerned about the fact that she hadn't said anything to anyone. And that really was, like I said, out of character for her. So on August 18th, as people were starting to learn about her disappearance, her friend Terry Strickland started the Help Find Tiffany Facebook page. When I was going through the original posts on the page back in, August 2013, it's clear that everyone banded together very quickly to help get the word out and do whatever they could do to bring Tiffany home. Like, it was well organized. I mean, they were printing up flyers, they were doing searches, they were alerting the media. I mean, they were doing this, unfortunately, not from day one of her disappearance, because it wasn't reported until several days later.
Sure.
But as soon as everybody found out, they got moving. Police were seemingly also taking her disappearance seriously. Within days, they were requesting phone and financial data in order to help them retrace Tiffany's steps. I also found a really interesting comment from Tiffany's mother, Cindy, that gave a glimpse behind the scenes. It said in part, quote, "We at first believed financial difficulties was the reason, but we found out she knew she was getting a big check and the check was still at her house. Now we are looking at different possibilities too," end quote. So it sounds as though Cindy believed that her daughter may have been stressed out about money and had taken off.
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously, she must have been stressed out about money if she didn't pay the electric bill.
Yeah.
And they don't shut the power off right away. It's not like, okay, you're a month behind, we're shutting your power off. Like, they let it go for a while.
Yeah, they do.
Typically.
Yeah, and yes, I mean, how long they let it go definitely depends on your area and the power company, but you're right, it's not an immediate thing. So Cindy's theory does make sense because, as it turns out, Tiffany's electric was shut off for non-payment. Because again, that was just what Gary had assumed, but they didn't actually know that for certain.
Yeah.
So then after she was reported missing, then that's when they
confirmed.
Found out what was going on. It's interesting, though, this Facebook comment from her mother is the only place I've ever seen that mention of a big check. So, I'm not sure what that check was for, if it was a one-time thing, if it's, something that she was going to be getting regularly, or what the deal was behind that.
Or maybe she had sold a painting or something. And
yeah, I mean, and I don't know what, a big check means, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, who knows?
Yeah, so it's really hard to say. So while Tiffany likely would have been able to get her electricity back on and get more minutes for her phone with this check, I would assume it would have been enough for that, financial difficulties were a common theme in her life. But then on August 20th, 8 days after she was last seen, the case took a turn. Tiffany's Toyota 4Runner was found. Just like her house, there were no signs of foul play. Nothing looked amiss in it. Her bicycle was inside, along with her purse, cell phone, wallet, clothing, a few of her paintings, a jar of peanut butter, and a jug of water.
It's a random assortment of things, but okay.
But it's like...
It's very much like a
hippie,
call her hippie,
yeah,
but yeah,
like a very hippie like,
lifestyle, yeah.
Absolutely. Like, I've got to keep water and peanut butter in my car in case I go on an impromptu hike. Same thing with like a change of clothes. Yeah. And, you know, I think everything in that made complete sense, you know?
Yeah.
So by this time, photos of Tiffany and her car had been on local news. And that morning, the morning of the 20th, a cyclist who knew the Daniels family spotted the car while she was on her morning ride. It was parked in a lot on Pensacola Beach near Fort Pickens.
Okay, so it was in a lot by a beach.
Yes.
Okay. Obviously, I don't know the topography of Pensacola, Florida. So when you said cyclist, in my mind, I'm immediately thinking like, okay, cycling through the woods somewhere.
Yeah.
But okay, so this is...
And sand was found on her tires. So it seems as though she might have gone for a bike ride, like, around the beach.
Okay.
Once her car was located, police looked for cameras to see if Tiffany or her car could be seen on any of them. But it seems like all they came up with was a camera on the Pensacola Bay Bridge that recorded Tiffany's car crossing at 7:51 p.m. on August 12th, the evening she went missing. However, the camera only caught the license plate, not who was in the car.
Right.
When this news broke on the Facebook page, people thought that the car had been in the lot since the 12th. After all, it fit with the bridge camera, and Tiffany did like to go to that area of the beach to hike, bike, or swim. August 12th was also the night of the Perseid meteor shower, and Tiffany was absolutely the type of person who would go to the beach to watch it. So if Tiffany's car had been there since the 12th and was undisturbed, it points to something accidental happening to her.
Yeah, like going out for a swim and getting dragged out by the undertow, or who knows? Yeah,
exactly. I mean, any number of things could have happened that were tragic but completely benign.
Right. It also could mean that whatever did happen obviously didn't happen in the vehicle or have anything to do with where the vehicle was. So maybe something else happened outside of that. Yeah. But we know that that's the last known. Well, we don't know.
We don't know.
Because we don't know whether she was driving the car
or even in the car.
Right. But in theory, if she were, because this is a place where she frequented, then that is the last known location.
Correct, yeah.
Which doesn't give us a whole lot to go on because there's a million things that she could have done from there.
Yeah, exactly. Early searches focused on the beach area around where the car was found, as well as the ocean. The thought was she could have been hiking and something happened, or she went out for a nighttime swim and drowned, just like you said.
Right.
However, after these searches, and still to this day, nearly 12 years later, no trace of her has been found in these locations. Nothing ever washed up on shore, like no piece of clothing, nothing. And they did find early, when they were making these searches, they did find clothing and jewelry and, things of that nature, but none of it belonged to Tiffany. Okay. Yeah. Plus, people who lived near where the car was found, there's apparently a condo complex kind of right across the street, threw some doubt on the idea that that car had been there since the 12th. According to Angela Hunsinger, Tiffany's sister, quote, a neighbor that lives in a condominium across the street from the parking lot said that car was definitely not there 2 days ago, end quote.
Now, how is this person so sure?
Because apparently it was like where it was parked was kind of like in a weird place that was like reserved for wildlife. I don't know. There's something about where and how the car was parked that was odd.
Reserved for wildlife?
I don't know. I don't know.
They need a parking spot?
I don't know. But it was like a wildlife area.
Okay.
There's something, but there's something that stuck out about the car. And the people who lived across the street, they're like, yeah, no, that has not been here. And I think, from other things that I've read, and it's hard to say if this is 100% true, but I have read a lot of people say that, like, if that car had been there for 8 days because of where it was, like, it would have been towed.
Okay. But we do have video footage of her crossing that bridge.
Yeah. On
the evening of her disappearance.
Yep, the evening.
So that at least puts her car, not her necessarily, but her car in that area.
Yes.
The evening that she disappeared.
Mm-hmm. Police impounded Tiffany's car and searched for clues. We, of course, don't know about everything they may have found, but they did state publicly that they found 2 fingerprints, one on the door and one on the steering wheel, that they couldn't match to anyone known in the case. This, of course, could mean nothing. Fingerprints can last for a long time, and Tiffany could have simply let somebody borrow her car at one point. Or yeah. Or those prints could belong to the person who drove her car into that parking lot. Because if that car didn't show up until shortly before it was found, then that's the largest indicator of foul play that we have in this case.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
No one seems to believe that Tiffany chose to disappear, then lay low for almost a week before dumping her car in a public lot and vanishing for good.
Right.
Now, like I mentioned in the intro, I first heard of this case several years ago when I happened to watch her episode of Disappeared. And I distinctly remember that episode seemed to make a lot of her roommate Gary and somewhat painted him in a suspicious light.
Well, I mean, I don't know about the production of that show, yeah. But I mean, obviously that would be anybody's first suspect in this case.
Right.
Like this guy going through a divorce, twice her age, has no real connection to her other than her daughter's a friend of hers, and we don't know how close they are. You know what I mean? Like it just like it, and it's always the people closest that you
of course.
that are the first suspects.
I think the theory that I even see today out there is that, maybe he made the moves on her, she rejected him, blah, blah, blah. But police interviewed him pretty extensively and determined that he wasn't involved. To me, the biggest factor pointing to his innocence is the fact that he's the one who first raised the alarm that Tiffany was missing, and he did so pretty quickly.
Yeah.
If he had done something to her, he could have easily bought himself more time and just claimed that he thought his free-spirited roommate was off somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, nobody would have thought it was weird if he waited another day or two to, like, say anything.
Nobody would have thought it was weird if he never reported her missing.
Right.
This is not his daughter. It's like, It's a roommate.
It's a roommate. And she's an adult.
Yeah.
And he'd only been living there for, like, 3 weeks. Again.
Exactly. Like, again, like, nobody would have thought it weird if he hadn't reported her missing at all.
Yeah. Plus, there was no evidence of struggle in the house.
Right.
Like, nothing like that at all. In terms of other suspects, Tiffany's boyfriend, of course, came up.
Sure, but isn't he in Austin?
Yeah. They quickly determined that he had already left Florida before she went missing and hadn't come back. And he was also very cooperative with police and assisted them, however he could from Texas.
Yeah.
When I was reading through the rest of the 2013 Facebook posts, it seems as though they were beginning to believe that Tiffany was being held somewhere. There's no proof that she wasn't alive, so they had to believe that she was out there.
Sure.
But they also knew that she had no access to a phone, money, or transportation. So that means she had to have been with someone. But again, no one believed that she had just randomly skipped town either. So what option did that leave? According to Cindy, it left human trafficking. And now this idea didn't come out of nowhere. In 2014, nearly a year after her disappearance and after local searches turned up nothing besides her car, a sighting was reported. A waitress working in a restaurant in Metairie, Louisiana, outside of New Orleans, had an interesting interaction with 3 women. The group was made up of an older woman, possibly Latina, and 2 younger women, one also Latina and one white. The older woman did all of the talking, and according to the waitress, The younger white woman seemed nervous and wouldn't make eye contact. Both of the younger women also wore long sleeves pulled over their hands despite it being a hot day. By this point, Tiffany's story had made it outside the state of Florida, and the waitress knew about her. She even commented to the group that the young woman looked like the missing girl from the news. After that, she says they ordered their food to go and left. Now, it's not clear how long the waitress waited before reporting this to police, but by the time they got to the restaurant and took her statement, the surveillance video from that day had been taped over. Despite not having definitive proof of, a surveillance video, Tiffany's family believes this was her. They said that when she was cold, she would put her sleeves down over her hands like the waitress described. Apparently, the young woman also asked if the soup was made with fish broth or chicken broth, and Tiffany was a pescatarian, so this is something she would often ask at restaurants.
Okay, so that is more telling to me than
the sleeves.
The sleeves, because
for sure. Tons of people do that.
Anybody that's trying to hide track marks does that.
Yeah.
And up to this point, I haven't heard you mention anything about Tiffany having a heroin addiction.
No. I think it was pot and stuff like that. But no, there's never been any talk of her having a drug problem.
Which leads me to question the whole human trafficking thing.
Mm-hmm.
While yes, that may or may not have been Tiffany, but
right.
Typically you don't see human trafficking as a random kidnapping. Sorry, those that really like the movie Taken, that's not how it actually happens.
Yes.
Usually they're groomed into it by drug dealers or pedophiles or whatever. It's not just a random taking of somebody.
Exactly. And that's why when I first read this, I was like, okay, human trafficking. Because in doing, almost 5 years of this show, that comes up in just about every case of a missing woman when it's not obviously the husband who did it, right?
And I understand that most of the time it's relatives looking for hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
So completely understand why that thought would come into play. However, there's not really any evidence of that.
Right.
Here.
And that was my thought too.
Okay,
right?
Let's go.
Even though Interstate 10, where this restaurant's located, is a major known trafficking corridor
I'm not saying
that runs between Florida and Louisiana.
Right. I'm not saying those young women weren't being human trafficked.
Correct. Yeah.
What I'm saying is that I don't necessarily believe that Tiffany had been trafficked.
Right. And that was my thought too. Because Tiffany is a young white woman who I think could easily be mistaken for another young white woman.
Sure.
To be frank. I've seen pictures of her and I know people who look like her. I can easily see somebody mistaking another young woman for her. And again, for all the reasons that you just laid out, I just was not buying the human trafficking angle at all. I pretty much had dismissed it completely. Even though it kept on being brought up in all these articles. I was like, okay, well,
Sure, you could throw that out there as a possibility, but what evidence is there of it? So?
Well, I wrote a Reddit post. Now, give me
Reddit's 100% accurate.
No. And it's not about being accurate, but it did make me question my own assumptions. So about a year ago, a user named OKIntroduction768 posted on the Where is Tiffany Daniels thread in the Unresolved Mysteries subreddit. This post put forth a theory of human trafficking that actually does make sense to me. The post says in part, quote, "Someone in Tiffany's lesser-known circle of contacts somehow got in touch with her, or maybe she contacted them. She could have been casting about looking for ways to make quick cash, and this friend of a friend promises to help her do that. He says he knows someone who will buy some of her art, explaining why her art was in the car, and perhaps also promises some sort of activity or work to make quick money, such as she would work as a bikini-clad waitress on a rich guy's yacht for a few days and make decent bucks, explaining the request for a week off. She arrives and is taken away, perhaps voluntarily at first, by this guy or guys. Then she realizes too late that it's sex trafficking. Maybe she fights back or tries to escape and is killed." End quote. Now, this apparently is a theory that Cindy Daniels brought forth on a podcast appearance. And of the possibilities that we've talked about, this does fit with the existing evidence. Tiffany was having money problems. She was about 2 months behind on her bills, and as I mentioned earlier, her electricity got shut off. She was also apparently trying to sell her art at work that day. She also told her boss that she needed time off, but didn't mention this to anyone else in her life, meaning she likely needed time off for a reason she didn't want to share. And this can also fit with her car either being there for the entire 8 days or with it being put there 6 days later. Either she left willingly from that location and they left the car, or somebody associated with the people who took her moved it. Witnesses said that on the day it was found, they saw a man getting out of the car. And there was also a sighting, I believe, of a different man wearing red shorts and no shirt who was around the car as well.
Okay, but the car's on a beach.
Exactly.
Like,
so
that doesn't mean anything.
A lot of people think that it was just somebody kind of like maybe looking to like steal it or steal the things in it or,
Sure.
whatever, just kind of checking it out.
But what witness said that they saw a man getting out? Because that was never mentioned before.
Yeah, apparently that was like somebody, I guess, who lived in the condo complex as well. But I don't know. That one's a little squishy. Like that one's not like a solid theory that one's not a solid sighting. But Tiffany's parents said that she had a trusting nature and can see her getting duped into something like this in an attempt to make money or help someone out.
I mean, look, I'll give you the potential of like, hey, I know a guy that wants to buy your art.
Yeah.
But to jump from this person is like Tiffany's a free-spirited hippie that likes to couch surf and has a couch surfing account to she's now a bikini-clad waitress on a rich man's yacht. I think that's a pretty big stretch. Incidentally, that was also a subplot of Taken.
Oh.
Just throwing that out there.
I've never actually seen Taken.
Yeah, she was literally taken by a rich guy on a yacht.
Oh.
So, just throwing that out there.
Right, but yacht girls are a thing.
Sure. I don't see the connection of that's a jump to me. It's a jump.
It's a jump,
it's a theory.
But I don't think it's that far of a jump, honestly. I mean, I think that if somebody says you can make $1,000 and just come like smile at rich guys for on this boat for a couple days.
Sure, but she also had the check. Like her mom said, there was a check that they found in her apartment.
Right, but maybe that check was enough to get her caught up and not get her ahead. And maybe she's just going to be in the same situation a month later. Like we don't know how much the check was, right? And she had these kind of ongoing financial problems. So yeah. I don't know. And again, I don't know what happened. I'm not saying this is what happened, but what I am saying is that it's the only theory that has been put forth that really works with her asking for those days off of work and nobody else knowing that she asked for those days off of work.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I will give you that. The days off of work, it does line up. It just, I don't know. To me, that just doesn't fit her personality.
Yeah, we don't know her,
I know that. I'm just saying based on like, I don't know. It just seems like a big jump going from being a free spirit to now you're a yacht girl.
Yes. But I think that, when you're desperate for money, that you do things that maybe aren't completely within your personality.
I guess. I don't know. I don't know. To me, it's still just a stretch.
I mean, listen, nobody ever asked me or wanted me to be a yacht girl, but like if I were in my 20s and I was having money problems and the opportunity arose, like I would consider it.
Okay.
It just never came up. Again, that to me is really the only theory that makes sense with the whole time off work thing. The other kind of logical conclusion that I can come up with is an accident in the ocean.
Right.
But that doesn't fit with the time off. And locals have said that while people certainly have drowned near that beach, they've always washed up onto shore. It's certainly not impossible that Tiffany didn't for some reason.
Sure.
But I have to say that the accidental sex trafficking theory kind of seems more likely to me. And honestly, that sighting in Louisiana doesn't even have to be accurate for that to have been what happened to her. Because I'm with you. Like, I don't think that was Tiffany. I mean, the whole stoop thing is interesting, but not definitive to me.
What was the answer to the question?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because, they didn't say, like, I'm a pescatarian, I only eat fish.
Yeah. I don't know what the whole conversation was.
Right.
Just
so I'm just curious, did she walk away with
the soup or not?
With chicken soup.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or chicken stock in the soup, and that debunks that theory. We don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I just keep on going back to what fits. And, I don't want to sound crass when I say this because this is obviously a devastating topic. But if Tiffany was on a boat, something could have happened to her and she could have been thrown overboard, never to be seen again. Cindy and Rodney, Tiffany's parents, continue to search for their daughter and implore anyone who may know something to come forward. At an event marking the 10th anniversary of their daughter's disappearance, Rodney told a reporter for WEAR News, quote, "You just go day to day. You have to. I have PTSD from it. I'm a retired assistant fire chief. That's my way of dealing with it. I speak nationally on this. My wife and I both have those days. Fortunately, not on the same days, so we're able to prop each other up." End quote. While it's been over a decade since her disappearance and few clues have been uncovered, there's always, always hope that answers will be found in Tiffany's case. In 2023, a new detective was assigned, and her car and its contents are still in police custody. DNA lasts a long time. And with constant advancements in technology, there's always the possibility that her vehicle may hold more clues than initially thought.
I mean, there's also the possibility that that fingerprint gets a hit on APHIS and comes back with somebody.
Exactly. Yeah. Somebody who wasn't in the system 12 years ago, but is now or will be next year or whatever the case may be.
Right.
On August 12th, 2024, the 11th anniversary of her daughter's disappearance, Cindy posted on the Find Tiffany Facebook page, quote, 11 years ago, I got the call no parent wants to get, and that's that. No one knows where their daughter is and that she's missing. It's been 11 years and lots of leads that have all been checked out, but we do know that there are some people locally that may have information but don't want to share it. I plead to them today to have a conscience and please come forward and help us to bring Tiffany home. And if justice is due for Tiffany, get justice for Tiffany. But we will not give up, so if you don't want to come, that's fine. If you just want to live with us on your conscience, that's fine. Just remember, karma can come home at any day. End quote. Tiffany Daniels has been missing from Pensacola, Florida since August 12, 2013. She is a white female with blonde hair and blue eyes. At the time of her disappearance, she was 5'7" and approximately 135 pounds. She has distinctive tattoos on the tops of her feet of plants growing from seeds. Tiffany was 25 when she went missing. She would be 37 today. Anyone with information about Tiffany Daniels is asked to call the Pensacola Police Department at 850-435-1979 or Crime Stoppers at 850-436-9620. You can see all the sources for this episode along with photos and videos at our website, andthentheywere.gone.com.
And be sure to follow us on social, And Then They Were Gone Pod on Facebook and at ATTWG Pod on Instagram and TikTok. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe and consider leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It will help new listeners find us. And the more people that listen, the more chances we have of bringing someone home.
And we'll see you here next week for a brand new episode.
See you next week.
And Then They Were Gone is hosted by Kona Gallagher and Ethan Flick. All research, writing, and editing is done by me, Kona Gallagher. Theme music is The Stork by Ketsa. Additional music is provided by Kai Engel. And Then They Were Gone is a Little Monster production.